but they just take off of land around here. And so Young Living has agreements in a lot of different places with a lot of our different farms that we will come in and clean out the trees you don't want there anymore if we can have them. We do that a lot at the Highland Flats farm for the Idaho balsam fir. We'll go into acreage, we'll clear out all of the balsam fir trees, and the developers are happy because they have to do other things to take care of it, and we're like, we want it, and we'll even help you with some of this land management here, you know? So this is juniper that they bring in here. So all the tree matter is chipped up and put here, and then just piece by piece, they're gonna take it into the distillery, and I'll show you that in a second. But different plants are done different ways. So there are some plants that are cut in the field, and they, like Melissa, for example, they cut it in the field and then they lay it to rest for a second, and they let it just kind of prime up before they pull it out of the field. Other plants are brought in super green. The longer it sits, of course, those oils are gonna evaporate out of there a little bit. So they wanna distill this as quickly as they possibly can, within reason, because obviously it's not all gonna fit in today. But these are the distillers that you see right here. These, how many of y'all been here before? Just so I know who, okay, good. So these are the distillers right here. And they're about from where that green lip is before it becomes conical on the top. It goes down about 10 feet. And we're gonna go around and we're gonna see the back side of that in a minute. But these lids lift off, they hinge up, and then they're able to come out here and take one of these big machineries, pick up the chips, and drop them in there. And they'll drop it in and fill it up about a third of the way, and then they will literally climb in it and stomp it down, and then they'll put another third of chips in, they'll climb in and stomp it down, and they'll keep doing that until they get up to the top. Because those steam molecules that are coming through, they're gonna wiggle their way through in the easiest way to get out. So if they don't press that matter, it'll create these air tunnels where the steam will not grab the plant molecules, but instead will just work its way out. And so they really want to get it tamped down as much as they possibly can. If you ever have the opportunity to come and do a harvest, you will actually get to go in there and stomp it down. It's a really cool experience to be able to do that and see exactly how it's done. So then underneath, and again, we'll see this from when we get over there, they actually will take steam from the bottom, the very bottom of that, and that steam is going to come up, and it's going to come through the boiler systems that we may or may not be able to see. I don't know if they're open right now or not. But that steam is going to come up from the bottom, and it's going to go just through all that plant matter. And the tubes that we see here, there's a green cover and then the metal tubes right there. That's actually where that steam comes out. And it comes out as a vapor. It is so hot, it is just pulling vapor out. It's not mist, it's just boiling hot vapor. They actually control the temperature really. A long time ago, I was at the farm in Idaho, the Highland Flats farm, and the guy there was saying, I adjust the temperature of the water coming out of the boiler. We don't do this with automation. We don't control this with anything except sound. I can hear the steam coming through, and I can hear it if it makes a pitch shift, and I know, and Gary would teach his people by sound how to do the distillers and how to adjust exactly what was coming in. So they don't sleep when they do this. Some of these things run for hours and hours, or in Highland Flats, they'll be running 24/7, not the same load, but they'll fill it, empty it, and keep running it. And so all night someone is sitting there just listening to it distill. And they'll listen and then they'll go tweak, and then they'll listen and they'll go tweak that one. It's an amazing process, but that's how precise Gary was about all the things that he did, that it wasn't like, this goes at, I don't know, I have no idea how hot, but this goes at 252 degrees and we just leave it there. No, it's adjusted the whole way through. The steam is gonna rise up through this metal. It's only ever gonna touch metal or glass the whole time. It's not, and it's like a, stainless, whatever, I don't know exactly what it is. There's something official. So it's gonna come up through this, and then it's gonna come up through that metal curve at the top. And as that vapor comes over, it's gonna hit a condenser. So the inside of that metal tube is actually, it's usually coil wrapped in a condenser. So there's water that is contained, it doesn't touch the steam, but it's cold. And so as the vapor comes to it and it enters this cold chamber, it's gonna turn that vapor back into liquid. So it's gonna drop back down through the other side into a liquid form, and we'll see where that happens. And as it cools and that liquid forms, that's where the oil and the water will separate. With most of our oils, they float. There are a few that do sink, So it depends on what you're distilling as to what it's going to do. So this is where it's coming through, and it's pulled off through this whole tube right here so that it's coming down. It's coming to the bottom. It's coming through this gray tube right here, and it's coming down into this funnel into here. This is actually where it's coming into. So this whole thing is going to be full of liquid or growing full of liquid. And then they have two controls here. This one would pull the water off. So this one's going to pull the water out of the bottom here. But before they do that, they're actually going to adjust it, and they would raise the water level here. And when they raise the water level, what it'll do is it'll push that oil up over and into that cone. You see that? And then when they do that, they can pull the oil off the top. They're all connected somehow. I think comes up to that cone right there. And so they would open it when this is up enough, and that oil is going to go over and into that cone, and they can take off just the oil into their compartment right here, okay? So what happens as this process begins, for a while you just see this milky looking water. This is the hydrosol, right? This is that floral water, like the Royal Hawaiian hydrosol that we have. That's what this is. And so eventually it's just kind of bubbling and bubbling, and then there's this moment that if you've ever been with them at the farm, as you watch this, it's so cool when you've helped them cut the tree, you've helped them pack the distiller, and then you go like this for like an hour, and you wait for that first oil bubble to separate, to get big enough to pop up. They call it passover. It's the moment that that oil passes over and comes up to the top of the water. And so you start to see it, and then it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And so it's actually going to be pulled off, and it's going to be taken to another room at the end, I don't know if it'll be open, where they run it through unbleached coffee filters. It's just still the best way to do it. To get all the little impurities, anything that might have come out from that matter that was up there, they don't get chunks, but sometimes you just get little things that come through. And so they'll filter it off a couple of times, and then they have those vats of oil that come from it. Got any questions about it? The filtering, and then where they just kind of make sure everything's ready to be taken to the warehouse where they're going to do the full testing. But in there, they do things like, so for example, with the lavender, the way that they determine that lavender is ready to be harvested is they use a bricks system. And so it's just a really simple test that they go out into the field and they test the level of sugars in the lavender. And that's how, it's just a measurement. They know that it's okay, it's at this level, it's within this range, it's ready to be harvested. So they do a lot of that testing and stuff back here. They also have, that's where they have a freezer. Some of y'all heard me say that the last bit of floral water that they take off the top, it'll be water and oil kind of together, and they'll do everything they can to just filter that out. But the last bit of it they'll throw in the freezer because most oils don't freeze. Some will, like rose and myrrh, like some of them will get really thick, right? But the majority of our oils won't actually freeze. So if you were to freeze, if you took a water bottle and I put 50 drops or so of oil in this and shook it up and let it sit in my freezer, the oil is going to go to the top, but it's also going to stay liquid. So I'm going to be able to pour that off, that last bit of frozen water, after I let that freeze. So they have a freezer in there where they do that, but that's where they do all the on-the-site filtering. And so they'll take all of that juniper that was in there that's come out of one season, and they will mix it together in here, so that will become one lot that's sent to the corporate office, and it'll be in these huge drums. And so they'll have all that in there. So they may have that drum sitting there for a couple of days and filling it up until it gets to a certain level, and then they're going to send that one off. They'll do some preliminary testing here, but the majority of the testing will be done at corporate before they bottle, or at the warehouse before they bottle. You have any questions about anything inside?